On April 12, 1961, the first person was launched into space. This event marked the beginning of human spaceflight. But what has happened since, and which are the main spaceports on Earth? A spaceport is a launch site for rockets that carry cargo, such as satellites or people, into space. Because the constructions and maintenance of such a facility is very expensive, location factors must be well weighted beforehand. Politically or seismically unstable locations are therefore ruled out. To take advantage of the Earth's rotation, launches normally take place in an easterly direction. For this reason, care is taken to ensure that either an ocean, a desert, or another sparsely populated area lies in this direction. This prevents personal injury in the event of a launch failure. For launches into polar orbits, location close to the poles are better. For near equatorial orbits, the launch site should be as close to the equator as possible. But now to the actual location of spaceports. This map shows all currently used, under construction, or former spaceports. We can clearly see that especially the USA, Russia, and China have several launch sites. The spaceport of the European Space Agency, ESA, is located in the French department of French Guiana and thus not far from the equator. In addition, the Atlantic Ocean stretches east of it. Worldwide, only 4 spaceports have been used for manned spaceflight. These are Baikonur in present-day Kazakhstan, Cape Canaveral and the Kennedy Space Center in Florida in the United States, and Zhoushan in northern China. Let's take a closer look at these. The Baikonur Cosmodrome was the main site of the Soviet space program. It was from here that Yuri Gagarin became the first human to launch into space in 1961. Valentina Tereshkova became the first woman to fly into space from Baikonur in 1963. All further manned flights of the USSR, such as the Mir space station, were also carried out from here. After the end of the American Space Shuttle program, all manned flights to the International Space Station, ISS, were also carried out from here. The spaceport is now located in independent Kazakhstan, but is leased to Russia until 2050 and operated by the Russian space agency Roscosmos. To make itself less dependent on Kazakhstan, Russia has built a new spaceport in parallel in the country's far east, Vostochny. However, this is currently not equipped for manned spaceflight. The 2 US spaceports are located practically next to each other on the Atlantic coast of the US state of Florida. The first manned US spaceflights took off from the Cape Canaveral rocket launch site in the 1960s. The Apollo 11 mission, in which Neil Armstrong was the first man to walk on the surface of the moon, finally took off from the Kennedy Space Center. All US space shuttle flights, for example to the International Space Station ISS, also took off from here. Since 2020, manned flights of the Space Dragon spacecraft designed by the private company SpaceX have been taking place from here. Thus, with the help of the US space company, NASA can once again bring astronauts to the ISS. The private company Blue Origin carried out its first crewed suborbital spaceflight with founder Jeff Bezos himself on board in 2021 from the Corn Ranch site in Van Horn, Texas. Meanwhile, Virgin Galactic also launched commercial spaceflights with humans on board from Spaceport America, New Mexico. Furthermore, astronauts were to be launched into space from Cape Canaveral with the Boeing Starliner in 2022, but the project is suffering from delays. The Chinese Zhoushan Launch Center is located in northern China, in the autonomous region of Inner Mongolia. China's first manned spaceflight took off from here in 2003 with the Shenzhou 5 spacecraft. Chinese space laboratories were launched from here in the 2010s, and since 2021 the Chinese Tiangong space station. China's National Space Administration has plans for manned lunar missions, but these are to be conducted from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, located in southern China on Hainan Island. In 2022, there have been a total of 10 crewed spaceflights from Earth. 3 of them were carried out from Kennedy Space Center, 3 from Corn Ranch, 2 from Baikonur, and 2 from Zhoushan. India's space agency, ISRO, is also working on its own manned space program. After numerous delays, the first crewed spaceflight is set to be in 2024. The launch site would be the Satish Dhawan Space Center. Private spaceflight is developing in leaps and bounds, particularly in the USA. Thus, manned, albeit suborbital flights have also been carried out by various companies. The main focus here is on space tourism. Several nations have plans for lunar missions. Meanwhile, the USA is considering a mission to Mars. And that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Until next time.